Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Tech to Elevate webinar. We're glad you could make it, whether you're here with us in person or if you're watching later. Again, we upload all of these webinars to YouTube later, so you can always go back, rewatch these, check out our other webinars. And if you still have more questions, that's what we're here for. Free tech help and digital skills training. Be sure to reach out to one of our amazing digital coaches, such as myself. I'll be hosting today for this webinar. Um, I'm Ben Gallegos. I live up in Erie, and that's where I serve, but we do virtual, and we have other teams down in Beaver. And down in Beaver, we have Sam and his other group down there, and Sam will actually be doing a presentation for us today on cybersecurity in your small business, which is one of the many partnerships we have. We have partnerships with Grow with Google and different libraries and organizations, and we're really proud to be able to present this information to you for free through our partners to really help you grow yourself, whether that's professionally in this case or personal development or anything that really you're looking to grow. So, Sam.
Hi, thank you very much for the introduction, Benj, and hello, everyone. I'm Sam. I previously did a webinar on ads and algorithms and how to recognize them and how to maybe control your settings on those. So I'm back for round two here. Welcome to today's workshop where the topic is going to be cybersecurity and your small business. And this is, as Benj mentioned, Grow with Google workshop. And these workshops help people grow skills, careers, businesses, by offering free digital skills trainings and tools. And that's what this presentation is going to be a part of today. My name is Sam Rendon. I am a Tech to Elevate coach in Beaver County. I live in Pittsburgh, and I am also a master's student of public and international affairs at the University of Pittsburgh, studying security and intelligence. So I know a little bit about cybersecurity, but I've learned a lot, honestly, through this presentation that I've seen kind of played out in my studies as well. So I can kind of comment a little bit or embellish a little on top of that for everyone who's watching. But this is going to be why cybersecurity matters to businesses of all sizes and kind of cover how you can protect yourself and your customers. But some of the things, especially towards the first part of the presentation, are really relevant to the individual as well. So this could be helpful even if you don't own a business and you just kind of want a little primer on cybersecurity, what to maybe be concerned about, and kind of what to do to protect yourself as an individual. The first thing we're going to get into is just some quick examples of spam messages. The first one here is going to be, this is a common example of a cyber attack that many of us, if not all of us, have experienced. If you ever receive an email like the one shown in this slide here, with the exciting news that a generous stranger has gifted you 1.5 million US dollars. That sounds too good to be true, right? Well, there's a lot of variations on the same theme. And the second example, the sender wants to know if they can trust you with $10.5 million. And that if you respond with your own phone number, he'll let you know what to do next. Though there's a little bit of a call to action for you usually to be seen in these emails. There's not just limited to email too. You can receive these kinds of offers in text form. They're not always as obvious as somebody wanting to just give you millions and millions of dollars, but you might be asked to click on a link to renew a subscription. More recently, there's been requests to pay EasyPass tolls for those of us that are in EasyPass jurisdiction. I've gotten those texts recently. These are all examples of phishing, when a cyber criminal tries to impersonate a brand or a person or an agency to try to trick you into taking some sort of action that gives them access to your device or accounts. And that's either just by sharing information with them, or potentially a link that you click on has what will be called like a payload, or triggers malware to start taking action on your device and working with your information. Sometimes you'll get threatening communications as well. In this example, the sender says they found illegal and embarrassing content on your computer, and they're going to let everybody know unless you transfer them 13.5 Bitcoin. The value of that Bitcoin at the time that this was made was about $20,000. It's way more than that now, but I have received messages like this before. But they also give you kind of like instructions on how to purchase this Bitcoin. If you don't know how to do it, you can just Google it. And finally, they also offer some parting advice here. They suggest that they will do everything fairly as long as you pay them the Bitcoin. They won't release anything. And they also suggest that you shouldn't get caught in a similar situation in the future, and that you should keep changing all your passwords frequently. Now, that's not bad advice, and that's kind of part of what we're going to get into in this presentation and how to manage those things. So for the rest of the workshop, after those examples, we're going to explain ways to improve your online business security. We're going to kind of start off with the understanding of why cybersecurity matters for businesses of any size, shows you ways that you can protect yourself and your customers online, and explain the next steps that you can take in the event of a cyber attack, and finish up with just a quick recap of everything and some resources. Cybersecurity matters for every business. We've all heard stories of computer breaches over the years, customer data being stolen, systems being disabled, and access to important data being held for ransom. The more digital tools we have, they become what's called an attack vector, or a doorway for a criminal or another bad actor to present some kind of challenge or attack a business, and retrieve those resources, disable their systems, and usually this is a money-making endeavor for the criminals involved. In a survey, 65% of small business leaders say data security and customer privacy are concerns. This is a 2022 Connected Commerce Council survey. And additionally, 85% of those same small business leaders said that having a cybersecurity plan in place would make them feel more comfortable using digital tools for their businesses over the next 2 years. There's no denying that there are bad actors out there, but there are actions that you can take to protect yourself and your business, your customers as well, and start developing that cybersecurity plan. And that's kind of what we're going to outline here, and just get a little of the lay of the land here. So we're just going to start with how to protect yourself online. Really kind of talking about what exactly is a cyber attack. That's going to include any offensive action that's targeting a computer network, computer infrastructure, or a smartphone. Getting into these systems, attackers usually will look for vulnerabilities, or like a weak password, for example. And you can kind of envision all of these things, your whole online presence, as like a house. And then the home has different entry points. My home has 3, plus all the windows. You have a front door, a back door, door in the basement, a bunch of windows. Your digital home also has a bunch of entry points where you put in your username and password or log into something. The more entry points you have, the more vulnerable you potentially are. And the way that cyber criminals will work is they're just going to start twisting all the doorknobs. They're going to knock on every door and see which one opens, because they can do so really, really fast. So it's not necessarily that they're so good at hacking that they can break into something that is set up securely, but just that they can really test all of these doors really fast. And they don't even know what's in your home. They don't know what's in your email account, what kind of assets you may have access to through a particular account. They don't even care. They're just going to test it, see if they can get in, grab what they can, and get out. So even if you think that you might not have anything that a cyber criminal would want, they don't particularly care what you have, because they're not looking. They're just trying to get into your stuff. So that's a reason why it's not important to dismiss cybersecurity thinking that your business is too small to be the subject of an attack.
But I also think it's a great reminder that, once you're able to put those things in place, just locking all your doors often is enough, because they may not necessarily be targeting you with malicious intent or anything like that. They're just going around to everyone's businesses and trying to find if there's any back doors into anything. So being able to take these steps really can make a difference too.
Absolutely. It's just a big old dragnet, just scooping up everything you can. Usually targets are chosen by looking for any kind of technical signals that suggest vulnerabilities. This can be an out-of-date website built with less security, software that hasn't been updated, and any kind of like technical vulnerabilities on employee devices. I know something that definitely bugs my clients a lot, who are just kind of not necessarily as familiar with the smartphone, is that Android or their iPhone operating system is like updating frequently, and it's just a little overwhelming. But the reason it's doing that is to stay ahead of any particular like attack vectors, and it closed doors that had previously been opened. So if you're wondering why that happens, that's a big reason that those updates come out as frequently as they do, even if nothing appears to change. So how can you protect yourself in this environment? The first way is with your passwords and identity. You want to have strong, difficult to guess passwords. You've probably heard about this already. There's a lot of discussion about it, and I know it's not the easiest thing. But the general principles, just to review, are you want to make your passwords difficult to guess, long strings of nonsensical characters, like a @ exclamation point 12BZ capital C, just something that doesn't make any sense and has no relevance to you. And then just they should all be different. You want to keep those passwords private, never share them with other people. And you want to, when you have different passwords, it basically means that if someone figures out a password for one account, they can't use it to access everything else. So it's don't keep all your eggs in one basket kind of principle. And it just reduces all the attack vectors that you have with whatever digital presence you are by following this practice. You also want to use a strong password for your Wi-Fi network as well, in addition to all these things. So fairly straightforward concept. This is, I think, something that is a little bit challenging to implement, and I hope to host a webinar on password management at some point. But this is one of the biggest things you can do to protect yourself online, as simple as it is. And one of the ways to be able to manage all this stuff is to use a password manager. I kind of alluded to that in the previous slide, but there's no way most humans are going to remember all of these different things for all of the different accounts you have, especially if all the passwords are different and intentionally nonsensical. There's a lot of different options available for password managers, but basically this is just a computerized ledger of all your passwords that's behind a very secure wall. So you are able to generate passwords, store autofill passwords as you log into things. Sometimes these can be within your browser. Sometimes they can be exported to an Excel spreadsheet. They can be like part of your device and the operating system if you have a smartphone especially. Google does have a no-cost option called Google Password Manager. This is going to help you do those kind of three main functions, which is create, save, and autofill your passwords. And autofill just means when you go to log into a website, Google's going to recognize that website and be like, we'll just log you in for you. So you don't even have to remember the one password you may remember for everything if that's what you're using now. It can be challenging, I think, to get these things set up across different devices if you're using it on Google Password Manager, but then you're going to an iPhone and you have the iPhone Password Manager. So that's kind of the things I'm hoping to resolve at a future time. But this is the best way to live with secure passwords, is to use a tool like this. Another security measure you can use to protect yourself is called two-step verification, also known as two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication or 2FA or MFA. You'll see all those things to describe the same idea, which is where when you sign into a device on an online account with a username and password, you also have to do an additional step, which is to have a code sent to your phone, have a phone call that requires a PIN code, or an actual physical security key, like a USB stick that must be plugged into the computer. And this combines the idea of protecting your account with something you know, your username and password, and something that you own, like a phone or security key. And that makes it much more difficult for an unauthorized person to sign into any of your accounts or systems. This is useful for any service, email, password protected websites. If you build and sell online services or software, you should definitely consider making this a part of your product. Giving customers the option of having two-step verification will help them protect their accounts. In 2021, there was a ransomware attack against the Colonial gas pipeline that shut down the movement of oil throughout the southern United States for several out like a whole day or two. And the reason that the hackers, which were a organized cyber criminal group, were able to access the internal systems of this pipeline company was because they had a leaked password for a VPN that they were using, which is supposed to be like a secure network application. And they had not bothered to set up two-step verification. And so they were able to just get right in, and it caused a national level security incident. So this is important for all scales of certain things. And I just wanted to share the story of how this is kind of the ABCs of cybersecurity, and even large companies that have a great deal of responsibility can fail to do it. And it would have potentially stopped an attack like that, which made headline news. If you use Google Workspace, you have the option to enable two-step verification for your entire workplace. You should definitely consider doing this in general, just to protect your data. And if your data is really sensitive, you can consider using a security key. You can purchase one of these for about $30, or you can use the one that's built in. A lot of times phones will have these keys built in to Android or iPhones, and then you can just use a mobile device to use the physical security key. This is going to be the probably most solid way to protect yourself. The ones that you'd purchase would be like a USB stick that you would insert into a computer or device. If you're using just a consumer Gmail, this is for everyone who's maybe not a small business owner out there, you can turn on this on your Google account as well. I have it on mine. And if sometimes somebody will try to sign into my Google account somewhere, and it'll be like, hey, did you try to do this? And pop up on my phone, and I'll be like, nope, I am not in Brazil. So there's a lot of benefits to doing this, and you'll be made aware of any unauthorized sign-ins, and then you'll also have the peace of mind of knowing that they weren't able to sign in because you have this turned on. So very simple step, makes it much more difficult to penetrate into any kind of system or account that you have. A little bit more on Google Workspace security. If you have an admin account, you have the ability to manage the services within all Google Workspace, Gmail, Google Docs, Google Sheets, for everyone in your organization that has an associated Workspace account. If you do not have a dedicated IT admin, then that's probably you as the business owner. And if you want to set up the workspace for your business for kind of security, this is some tips to kind of go through that. You want to limit who can see newly created files. You can control who can see files by any users in the workspace. All you'd have to do is just turn link sharing off, so you can make sure only the person who makes the file can actually open it until they explicitly share it with somebody else. So that just helps to keep the kind of need to know within the people that need to know certain information that may be confidential or sensitive. You can also add a warning if a file is being shared with somebody outside the organization. This is something that we have at Tech to Elevate. We can still override it, but we always see it. If we're sharing something with someone outside the organization, we are always aware of what's happening, and it's definitely a way to kind of keep people aware of where that data is going if maybe they're not thinking about it. You can also limit how users are sharing their calendars, as calendars can also contain sensitive information, so you might want to restrict that. And you should also definitely set up a recovery phone and email address, because you don't want to get locked out of your Workspace account, especially if it's a paid account, because it costs money. So you want to be able to use all the features that are within it. Google would send with a recovery a new password via phone, text, email, etc. And there's more step-by-step instructions at the link in this slide at the g.co/grow/workspace security. And you can get step-by-step instructions on how to set all that up. Google has nicely put that together for us. The Google Workspace admin, again, you set up security options that's going to apply to everybody in the organization, but the individual users, or your employees in this case, can also do this for themselves. So if you share a file with another person, if I share a file with you, Benj, I can control whether you can edit, comment on, or only view that file. And I can also rescind the sharing at any time. I can take it back. So I can control if people I've shared with change the permissions, kind of share the files, or if you could share the file with other people. And if people with kind of viewer or commenter access can download, print, or copy it. So I have full control over the things that I create and share, in addition to what the admin does for the entire organization. So there's a lot of layers of security that you can put on these things. So those are just some quick ways we talked about to protect passwords, identity. Now I'm going to just go into equipment, apps, and data. When it comes to equipment, you want to never leave your computer unattended, especially, well, one, it could get stolen, but you really want to make sure that people cannot access it, that it's at least locked. You should enable a lock screen. You should require some kind of PIN or password for anyone to sign in. So if you do step away for a few minutes, that's going to keep it private. If you're responsible for distributing computers to employees, you want to make sure that those employees only can access the devices that they are assigned, especially as devices and account access moves from your hands into a broader team. This is really important for making sure that you have control and also accountability for the things that are happening on those devices as they are in a distributed state. People should only have access to the tools they need to do the jobs. For example, a sales team probably needs access to inventory, but it doesn't need access to payroll. That's the HR team's job. If you kind of limit the system access from global to local or only departmental need, that just, again, compartmentalizes the risk. And again, kind of going back to the principle, you don't want to keep all your eggs in one basket. Kind of following that principle will always limit risk. And then also, this one might seem kind of obvious, but you want to make sure your hardware is coming from a trusted source before using it. If you just find a random USB stick on your desk, you're not sure where it come from, don't plug it into your computer. That can trigger malware and just start doing stuff on its own that you don't want it to do. So make sure you know where things that go into your systems are coming from. Same thing for mobile devices as computers. If you can access company information with smartphones or tablets, you should consider creating a mobile device management policy. There's kind of a few examples of like what this policy could include would be requiring employees to encrypt their devices, requiring a PIN to unlock those devices, and allow for the remote wiping of data. If you allow access for like if you allow employees to use their personal phones to access company data, if that device gets stolen, lost, or if the employee leaves the company, you want to make sure that you can go in after the fact and remove that data from their personal device for all kinds of reasons. You don't need your proprietary information going out with your employees or going out if your employee loses or gets their device stolen. Remote data wiping itself is basically a feature that enables an authorized person, such as a business owner, an administrator, to send a command that just erases all of that stored data on the device, and that will help to protect your assets and reduce the risk of data breach overall. A few extra tips on this. You want to make sure that your operating system and software is up to date. You want to make sure that you're also using supported software that allows you to run regular updates when possible and enable auto updates so you have the latest security fixes as soon as they are available. A lot of the stuff just comes with this default. I know I was speaking to the clients, like with the OS updates, this is why this happens and why it's important. As long as those things are set to auto update, you should be good, but you need to make sure that that software is updated because cyber criminals will exploit old stuff. You want to review your devices. Are there apps that you don't need? You should remove them. Again, every single thing you have is another doorway. So you want to just make sure you're using everything you have, and anything you're not using, cut it out. And then if you're responsible for distributing computers, you want to establish those policies we spoke of earlier. Limit what data can be stored on which devices, allow for remote data wiping, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, if a device is containing only the information necessary for someone to do their job, there's less risk to the organization as a whole if it falls into the wrong hands. All of these things can be addressed by using a cloud-based computing system. Google Cloud is the example here. This powers more than 100 products and services, from financial services products to gaming. If you use Gmail or Google Workspace, you're already using it. This is how, if you log into a computer at the library and you log into your Gmail, all your emails are already on there because they're being pulled from a centralized database and servers that Google owns and manages. The cloud protects information, identities, applications, devices, using the same infrastructure that is designed to be secure. Again, even really, really large clients with a ton of assets are using this. And these systems have been designed with the utmost security in mind. And Google uses it to run its own business. So there's a lot of inherent interest in making sure it's secure as possible. When things are moving between Google Cloud and some kind of endpoint, like your own computer, the data is encrypted. And that's going to ensure that it can only be accessed when authorized. And so the top priority for Google is security, and these are going to be independently verified for security, privacy, and compliance controls. And encryption is a way, I know we've kind of used this term, but I just kind of want to define it. Encryption is a way to secure data to make sure that it is only readable by the intended recipient and the sender. And basically it uses a really complex algorithm of encoding it, that to break that code would require just a lot of math without the key of the other person. And it would take upwards of millions to billions of years if you were to just crunch all the numbers. So as of right now, encryption is a really good way to make sure that nobody from the outside can read your stuff. As a quick aside. So far, we've covered protecting passwords, identity, hardware, applications, but we haven't talked about the customers yet and your own business. So let's get into that now. When you have your own website, you will want to make sure that you are using an HTTPS. The S just stands for security. You'll see either HTTP or HTTPS, and the S is just going to be the more secure version of the markup language. Let me see how to explain this. But this is basically also an encryption system. It basically just tells the browser to encrypt the data that's exchanged with the web page. This disguises it, lessens the chances that somebody's going to be viewing it or manipulating it. And adding this protects customer data that is viewed or exchanged via the website. This is generally important for personal details, financial information, but it's just a good idea to use this protocol, even if your site doesn't handle info. If you're logged in right now, I believe that this is going to be an HTTPS right at the front of the URL on the top bar. And it's pretty common for most reputable websites at this point to use this. To get this, you'd need a secure certificate. Most web hosting providers, Wix, Squarespace, any of the kind of small business website platforms that allow you to build it yourself will generally just include this. If they don't, you can buy this from a company that sells them, which it's usually referred to as a certificate authority, and install it yourself. Apart from the security benefit, it also helps with SEO. Google is going to prioritize HTTPS URLs above non-HTTPS URLs. So making sure you have that secure certificate can also benefit your rankings in search engines and help customers discover you. So another plus there. All right. Google Workspace just automatically comes with this. Google Sites is going to be the website builder within Google Workspace. It provides a affordable website builder as a competition to the others like Wix and Squarespace. You do get the secure certificate. You don't need to pay for it. So that's another benefit of using this platform. These can be used for internal sites or customer-facing sites. And you can control, just like with the other Google Workspace platforms, who can see and who can edit it. And you can go to google.com/sites if you want to learn a little bit more about this platform. You also want to protect your email. You want to choose an email provider that supports encryption as well. They just want everything to be encrypted. Transport layer security is what this is going to be called in the email setting, and that's an important step towards protecting your business and your customers. Gmail always tries to use a secure transport layer security connection when sending email. However, that requires that both the sender and the recipient use this. If whoever you're sending an email to, if it is a Gmail, doesn't use it, Gmail will still deliver that message, but the connection won't be secure. So there's not much you can do on your recipient's end, but on your end, it's best to have that. And with Gmail is pretty widely used now, so you can pretty much rest assured you will be encrypted end to end. Beyond all of those kind of technical details, it kind of just goes back to what we covered at the beginning, which was don't open suspicious email. If somebody's offering you $10 million, if somebody's trying to blackmail you because they said they stole embarrassing stuff of you, don't open it, period. That's it. It's the only thing. This is called spam. It's sometimes it's just an online version of a cold call, somebody trying to sell you something. But it could also be a cyber attack attempt. It may look like somebody trying to sell you something, but it actually contains a link that contains a payload that starts delivering malware on your computer. So you just don't want to click this stuff. It ranges from annoying to really bad, and it's just not worth your time. You want to make sure that the whole organization does this as well. So you want to remind all your colleagues, all your employees to be careful when clicking on email attachments, downloading files, or visiting new URLs or web links, especially in unsolicited emails. You want to look for suspicious sender email addresses as well and email signatures, things that somebody claiming they're from the IRS and they just have a really long iCloud email. Doesn't really make much sense. That would be at irs.gov if it was a real one. You also never want to share personal information like usernames, passwords, social security numbers, credit card numbers. Keep it to yourself. That's the main points on that. We covered this at the beginning, but these are the phishing scams, right? We want to impersonate a trustworthy brand or person to trick you into taking some sort of action that gives them access to your business or customers. In this case, it is a fake DeWalt heater ad. And they might trick you, basically getting you to click on maybe this Get Started Now button in the slide will trick you into installing a malicious piece of software. This is called malware, just something that does things to your computer without your permission that are not good. It takes your information. And then it could give them, in worst case, full access to your computer data. They could impersonate all kinds of people, a credit card company, to steal your username and password. These could target an individual, or they could be broadcasted to a large group. Us at the University of Pittsburgh, we had a very bad phishing problem last year. We were getting emails from Pitt Cybersecurity about it all the time. And again, it's not limited to email. It can happen in text messages. You could get phishing calls. These can happen in messaging apps. WhatsApp has quite a bit of phishing going on as well. And websites, of course, as well. Also, these can be fairly sophisticated. Communications may appear legitimate at first glance. But there's another one, I think, that I just looked up the other day is I was just texted a PDF with no context. I thought PDFs were not live documents. I knew it was a phishing scam, but I thought maybe the worst case scenario, if I clicked it, it would contain a link. But apparently that's what people capitalize on. People don't think that a PDF itself can start triggering malware on your computer. They think it has to be a web link, but apparently you can embed malware protocols within a PDF. So don't click a PDF either, because it may just automatically start installing malware. And that's the whole point. People don't think it can do that, but it can. So none of it. Don't click any of it. That's the one rule. I know I keep harping on this, but that's the thing. Well, we could take a look here at a couple more suspicious emails and kind of some more of those details on how to identify them. Spam emails, if they're malicious or not, they can be difficult to spot. But usually there's some pretty clear warning signs that can help you make a decision about whether it's safe. Each of these signs individually doesn't necessarily indicate that the email is spam. Sometimes it's a combination of signals. The first thing to wonder is this email from somebody that you know? You should check the name at the top. Does it match an email address you expect to receive mail from? If the displayed name is your well-known financial institution, or it's just something vague, but the email address itself is something that doesn't make sense. I think the ones I got from EasyPass was like Patrick124 something, some long string of numbers at iCloud.com. They said they were from EasyPass, so that's a good clue it's not legitimate. You should also review the email subject line. Usually they'll try to inject a sense of urgency into the subject. Again, that call to action. They haven't gotten into your systems. They just have your email address. They need you to do something for them to actually capitalize on their time investment of sending phishing emails to everybody. So you'll see urgent in all capital letters. Try something to get you, get you going, get you up and putting your information and passwords in. So that's another red flag. Also, Gmail offers the option to select an identity photo. If you know the sender and you notice the absence of their profile photo, it's another warning sign. So that's another step you can take if you want to select identity photos for your coworkers, people you often email. If somebody tries to impersonate one of them and they say they're them, but it's missing, you'll know it's coming from somewhere else. And you should take a second and kind of figure out where that might be coming from. You'll also see poorly written text. This is really a judgment call on your part, but even like big brands can make little spelling or grammar mistakes, but the phrasing's awkward, if the sentences don't read naturally, if it just doesn't look like it was very professionally done, that's another good, way to know that it's probably not some official agency. And that it also might be a part of a translation tool and it's an attack coming from a foreign actor. Recently, again, I keep going back to the EasyPass example, but they wanted me to pay this toll by February 29th, 2025, which if you were counting days the past month is not a day that happens this year. So that's another good way to tell. All kinds of goofy stuff. But you'll also just, if you look at the subject line of this email, you have a little bit of that kind of sense of urgency. And some grammatical errors. Invoice has been done, and we will charge dues $348.60. And you also want to be very careful about attachments. Never ever click on an attachment on an email or a text that you suspect is spam. Even if it's a PDF and you don't think that PDFs can do malware, but they can. Don't mess with them. So let's take another quick look. This one's asking if you can spot the fake. We want to take a look at these two screenshots. Both of these are screenshots that will be taken from a Google two-step verification process. This is when when it's asking for your special code that you would get on your phone or through a key or something like that. Something that's supposed to enhance your cybersecurity, but this is actually a cyber attack attempt. Can you spot the fake? Benj, can you spot the fake?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the first things I see is that one of them seems to have a little icon and the other one doesn't, and you can kind of even look at the name of the email. A little hard to see from where I'm at, but it looks like one of them might be a little different and seems a little suspicious to look at.
Yeah, that's okay. It says unknown sender at example.com. But you picked out the profile photo and you nailed it. I hope this wouldn't happen to me because I could definitely see myself get into this situation. But yeah, sometimes somebody will get the first step of your verification by getting your password right, but they will not have your phone unless they also stole your phone and got your password, in which case you're just having a bad day. And so you can notice that that's not you, and you're like, nope, that's not me signing in. And usually if you follow through that more options menu, you can make reports of that stuff. And yeah, zooming in on the fake version here. You notice you don't know this person. It's unknown sender. No profile photo, just as Benj called out. The URL as well is not correct. It is a .tn. It has .com in the middle to make it seem like it's google.com, but it is not a .com domain. So that is actually used, sometimes is used to mask. So what you're going to want to do, if you know that the official domain is a .com or a .gov, you want to look at the very end of the string before any backslashes. And usually in a browser, the whole thing will be highlighted like a slightly different color, a darker black or a brighter white, depending on if you're in light or dark mode. If you see a .com and then you see a dot something else after that, you're going to want to look at the last one. That's the real domain. And if it's not what you think it should be, then it's somebody trying to disguise it. That is something that's also possible. Going back to email, this is just a fun fact. Gmail blocks more than 99.9% of spam, phishing attempts, and malware from reaching you. So if you think it's bad now, it would be way worse if we didn't have some of these pretty sophisticated spam filters here. That's going to equate to about 10 million spam emails every minute and 100 million phishing attempts every day. So when you're thinking about knocking on every door, this is a small piece of the scale of what we're talking about here. And that's just kind of the landscape of the digital world that we live in now. It's weird, but like we've kind of covered today, there are ways to mitigate that. But that's also kind of shows why Gmail is a very solid email client, and it's a free consumer product. It powers Google Workspace. All around, it's a very, very solid email option. You also have an option if you are on Google Workspace for a free service called Advanced Protection. If you have an at-risk account, if you have particularly valuable files, sensitive info, you should consider Advanced Protection. This requires a security key to verify your identity. And again, that's a physical key. So unless you get physical property stolen, it's not going to be as easy to get into these things. And again, the price range for those is about $30. This is different from two-step verification because the second step is always a physical security key, just like unlocking a car. You need to be able to have that. You need to put that key in the keyhole to make it work. And that's going to also limit third-party app access to your data. Stronger checks on malicious downloads and tightens account recovery security to help prevent unauthorized access. So if you are somebody who has really, really sensitive data, that setting up those advanced protection features in Google Workspace is going to be something that's probably right for your business. Google themselves strongly recommend that if you are a journalist, an activist, a business executive, or if you are involved in elections, that you enroll in this service. So that is just another note on another workspace service. Bottom line of all of this is think before you click. And when in doubt, don't click. If you get something that you think is from your bank, somebody sending you an invoice, call that person. Call your bank and be like, did you send me an invoice? And they'll say, yeah. And then you can read the email, speak to them about it. Go around the digital communication to where you find yourself back to places that lands more familiar, if that makes sense. And call your bank. And don't click. That's the bottom line. And the final kind of proverb is just making a plan, planning ahead. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. This holds true with most things in life, including cybersecurity. Having a plan and policies in place to manage access, understanding how you're going to communicate with your team, how you're going to set up your Google Workspace or some other kind of workspace brand account. Those are the things that are going to help protect you and help to mitigate the impact of any cyber attack on your small business or on yourself as an individual. And definitely plan ahead to not click on things that look sketchy. Sorry to keep harping on that. Again, if you detect a security problem, you should also have a plan for that if you get attacked. A data breach response plan should outline who's in charge, what needs to be done if sensitive or confidential data is viewed or stolen by an unauthorized person, maybe who needs to be communicated with, the degree to which you need to inform the public or your customer base. This response plan can protect your business by ensuring that you take quick action if something goes wrong. that you don't have to kind of figure out what all the roles and responsibilities are in the first place. And those are some of the things that it should contain. In the case of a ransomware attack, its cyber criminals are stealing sensitive data and demand a ransomware return. Solid response plan would include making sure you have recent data backups, potentially thinking through the process of like, are you going to pay? As hard as those decisions are, usually it's recommended that you don't. And we'll talk about some other kind of avenues to go down those if that does happen. But you basically just want to take the time to develop a clear plan in advance so everyone understands what steps to follow if a security incident does occur. You also need to kind of know where all the doors are in your digital house. You need to have take stock of all the tools, software, and platforms that you're using. I've also had business clients that don't have access to the passwords to log into things that they pay for. Don't necessarily know what it all is. I would certainly make a Google sheet or some kind of way that you can keep track of every door in your digital house, just so that you know that it's up to date, that your passwords are changed, so that you can be aware if something's compromised, because these things can spread from one platform to another. You also want to include any suppliers, customers. This can get pretty expansive with a business, but that's also why it's important to kind of take inventory of all of it, discovering out-of-date software in the process. But yeah, you do not want to be in a position where you're training employees on what to do in a cybersecurity situation during a security breach. Don't wait until that happens. You want to designate someone at your business to be responsible for online safety policy and training. If you're a smaller business with maybe only a couple employees, maybe that's you, or that's a collaborative effort with your partners and employees. You could also create an internal training website where you kind of have the security information and resources available. Yeah. So that's training is an important part, but it's also important to make sure that your company has a strong security culture. The employees are going to be, especially if you're a little bit larger of a small business, the first line of defense, just because they're the first line of interaction and there's more doorways with more people. They need to feel comfortable reporting concerns or mistakes without fear of blame. In the event of a security breach, the focus should be on identifying and resolving the issue and preventing similar problems from happening again, and not necessarily like blame in the moment. You should definitely build a security culture by discussing security regularly, encouraging employees to share concerns, and making sure that company leaders model good security practices. I think it's also, even with the password management thing, making sure that employees are comfortable using the tools that enable them to have differentiated passwords that are complex, and that they feel comfortable, confident, and that it's just normal for them to use those tools, and not something that they are constantly having to adjust to. And so maybe you could take the time to think about the security culture in your business and how you can make some improvements. But I'm not sure if anyone has any thoughts on that, or if there's anything.
Right. And, as you kind of think about your own company's culture, or whether it's just maybe your own personal habits, if you start to think like, oh, what was it that was said in that webinar? What was it that Sam said? Like I said, this will be on YouTube, but you can also feel free to reach out to us and we can talk about some of those steps and go more in depth into the specifics. Because I understand there's certainly a lot that we covered today. And so there's a lot to be able to think about moving forward.
Yes. And if you've made it this far, thank you for bearing with us and constantly saying to not click on links that you don't know. We're keeping it going. So let's go through a scenario. Despite your best efforts at establishing a good cybersecurity policy and infrastructure, you are the victim of a cyber attack. Maybe you inadvertently clicked on a link, or maybe your account was hacked. Maybe you don't even know how those systems were breached, but you have noticed suspicious activity on an account. So what do you do if you even suspect that you've been attacked? And that is take proactive steps immediately. If you have an IT department, start by telling them what happened. But for many small businesses, that IT department might just be you. So what do? You want to contact all the financial services where you have accounts, including banks, credit card companies, check for any activity you don't recognize, report fraudulent activity, close or place holds on any accounts that you suspect may have been compromised. Check your credit report for any new accounts that you didn't open, because that might have happened too. And then you can also request a free credit report from each of the 3 nationwide credit reporting agencies every 12 months. So unless you've been on a tear requesting credit reports lately, you should be able to do that for free. And then you also want to report any fraudulent accounts or loans that you don't recognize. And also maybe place a fraud alert on your credit or freeze your credit just to protect it in the meantime. But definitely protect the financials first. The next thing you want to do is you can report the attack to appropriate agencies. First, you can file a report with local police so there's an official record of the incident. And the next step would be to file a report with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, or I3C. Basically, cybercrimes reported here will be investigated and referred to the appropriate agency. The FBI is going to be the major agency for investigation of these kinds of incidents. So if you need to file a complaint, you can visit www.ic3.gov. If the security breach involved fraud, scams, or bad business practices, you can also contact the Federal Trade Commission at www.reportfraudftc.gov. If you find any fraudulent activity on your credit report, you have reason to believe someone's using your social, you can also file an identity theft report at www.idtheft.gov. Hopefully this doesn't happen to you, but this is where you go to file a report. Depending on the situation, the steps you take are going to vary. If it's a ransomware attack, disconnect the affected device from the network. If data was stolen or compromised, take steps to protect your company, inform customers, figure out if their data was involved, let them know so that they can change their passwords. No matter what type of cyber attack you experience, it's usually just smart to change your passwords. If your equipment or systems are compromised because of malware, you may need to seek professional tech support. Do a search for managed security support provider to see any options for companies that might be able to help deal with these, because that's a little bit more complicated. And then also just continue to continually monitor your credit and your financials, and make sure that any kind of compromise doesn't spread to start to affect either you or your business financially. That would be real bad. Okay, so that's pretty much the presentation. We're coming into a recap. We're going to recap all the topics we discussed today, look at a few additional resources from Grow with Google. The overall recap is strong, unique passwords, 2-step verification, something you know plus something you own, keeping your equipment safe, including any mobile devices, using a secure HTTPS secure certificate for your website, using a secure email provider with that transport layer security. Don't wait for a cyber attack to happen. Make a plan, create a list of your tech assets, create a list of your human assets that are going to respond to it. And also get your colleagues and employees on board by developing that and nurturing that security culture. Making sure that everyone feels comfortable reporting and that they are comfortable in continually taking secure actions. You can learn more about all of this by visiting Google Safety Center. You can access features like 2-step verification, automatically deleting web and activity data, setting parental controls, running a security checkup, and more at safety.google. Excuse me. And if you like video lessons, Grow with Google has these presentations on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/growwithgoogle, including this one. It's going to be by someone else, though. I'm sorry. I won't be with you for that. And the channel publishes videos covering topics that can help you grow your, again, skills, careers, and businesses. If you are looking to start a new career and land a competitively paid job or build skills to grow in your career, you can check out Google Career Certificates. These can give you a path to in-demand jobs with top employers that are currently hiring. You can earn a certificate and prepare for a new career in a high-growth field in under 6 months, even if you don't have relevant experience. These allow you to learn at your own pace and complete the online program on your own time. And you can have certificates available for data analytics, business intelligence, advanced data analytics, digital marketing and e-commerce, IT support, IT automation with Python, user experience or UX design, and project management, and cybersecurity, and a few more actually that we have on there. As Tech to Elevate, we also have scholarships for these on Coursera, so hit us up if you're interested in doing a Google Career Certificate. So since we're talking about cybersecurity today, I also wanted to mention the Cybersecurity Essentials course hosted on Coursera. This provides a quick introduction to cybersecurity and is designed for business leaders, tech sales professionals, engineers, and consumers. The Google Cybersecurity Action Team developed this 10-hour course for anyone who wants to gain a better understanding of threats, impacts to businesses, and a lot of things that we covered in this webinar here. Grow with Google itself, a little more information about it. This is an initiative to help people prepare for work, jobs, and to grow their business. So for job seekers can grow their skills in order to find new jobs. Teachers can learn how to put technology to work inside and outside the classroom. Small business owners can build their online presence and find new customers. Startups can learn how to get ideas and exposure they need to succeed. And developers can sharpen their tech skills and master new ones. And that's going to be at google.com/grow. Well, thank you so much for everybody attending today. We truly value any feedback with Grow with Google. You can access a survey either by this QR code or g.co/grow/feedback. And you click the banner that appears to access the survey if you're in the slides. And thanks again, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Again, there's a lot of steps that can be done. So, there's never a bad time to really start and continue that journey on your cybersecurity, or really if it's anything for your small business. That's what we're here for. We're always here for free. We do one-on-one and classes on digital skills lessons and tech help. And so that's what we're here for. Feel free to contact us, whether it's in person at our locations in Beaver or Erie, Pennsylvania. You can always meet us virtually as well. We have members in Cleveland, and we're continuing to grow, and we'd really love to be able to meet with you and help you really however that's possible. So you can find our website, our social media, anything like that, which is all Tech to Elevate with the number 2, and you'll be able to see that in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube or anything like that, the YouTube channel, Instagram, website, all of those can be found together. And so we hope you had a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.